If you've been here before, you know I love eyeshadow palettes. I could talk about eyeshadow palettes for days on end, and for the next 20 or so minutes, that is exactly what we are going to talk about. I'm going to be doing the eyeshadow palette tag 5000. This is a tag that I've seen floating around. I just saw Angelica Nyqvist do this today, so I said, this is what I'm filming today. It is originally created by Chic Geek Makeup. I will link both Angelica and Chic Geek Makeup's videos and channels down below in the description box, and if you are new here, welcome. My name is Rachel, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so excited to answer these fun eyeshadow palette tag questions. I love me a tag video. I love me eyeshadows, so I'm excited. While I'm going through these questions, I would love it if you are interested in answering them down below in the comments. I would love to hear your answers, or if you are a content creator as well, I would love it for you to do this, and make sure you tag me if you do, so I can watch your video. So number one is a palette you wore on a special occasion. So this for me was easy. I just got married less than 2 months ago. And so the eyeshadow palette that I used on my wedding day was a no-brainer for me. I knew long ago that this was going to be the eyeshadow palette I used, and it is the Natasha Denona Mini Nude. I love the looks that I get out of this palette. I don't know what it is. It is a boring, neutral 5-pan palette, but there is some je ne sais quoi, some little thing about it that makes the looks just look so special, understated yet glamorous. There's a little extra sophistication but effortless, and the shades are obviously very easy to use because they are Natasha Denona. I love that you're getting like a transition shade, a deepening shade, an inner corner shade, and then there are two options for the lid, one more of a darker neutral and one more of a warmer copper tone. So I used this one all over my lid on my wedding day, inner corner, crease, and outer corner. I didn't use this shade at all. I don't know what it is. I just love this palette. I love the looks. I felt so beautiful on my wedding day. I did do a video recently talking about my wedding and talking about the look that I did. I did actually recreate the look using a BH Cosmetics palette. So of course this isn't extremely unique in terms of the tones, but just the end result was so beautiful. I also love Natasha Denona Minis, how tiny and travel friendly and pocket sized, and how curated the color stories are, and the quality is great. So this one is the one I wore on my wedding day. All right, the next one is palette that you love but is repetitive. And this one, I kind of knew right away what I was going to pick, but okay, let me show it to you before I talk on and on. So I have the ABH Dorvina Volume 5. Listen, if you've been here before, you know I've talked this palette up a lot. I love this palette. I don't love trying to open it. And you know, I definitely think this could have been condensed down. Right? There are a lot of repeated shades in here. Some of these more mid-tone purples, they're pretty darn similar on the eyes. You got quite a few deep, dark purples. They look pretty similar on the eyes. But one thing I do like about this palette, there are a lot of other tones in here that once you like take a little look a little deeper, you can see that there is variety. There are some warm tones. There are some more like browns. There are a couple of pressed glitters in here, which is not my favorite, but I love this palette. I think the quality is amazing. Could it have been condensed down? Yes. And I would have appreciated if it was, because it is quite a large, heavy, like you can use it as a weapon. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of nice, but otherwise definitely could have been condensed down, but I love this palette. Love this palette. The next one is palette you got your money's worth. Well, right before my last declutter, or the declutter before, I would have said the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance. I had panned 2 shades in that palette, which is a feat for me. But that palette definitely I got my money's worth out of. But from the ones that I still have, I would say one of my most used palettes is the ColourPop Dream Street palette in collaboration with Kathleen Lights. This palette was used and abused. Oh my goodness. It's a neutral palette with a pop of blue and a pop of coral, right? But my basic bitch loving self in 2016, 2017, loved the crap out of this thing. These 2 shades up here were exclusively what I used for transition shades. Like I would constantly reach into this palette to get those 2 transition shades. This rose gold shade here, I loved putting this all over my lid, and you can't really tell, but it does have a big dip in the pan. The whole thing is absolutely disgustingly dirty, and I won't be putting this near my eyes anytime soon, but I do keep it around for the memories. I'm sure I am going to declutter it in the near future because I don't plan to use this again, but boy, did I get my money's worth out of this. Do any of you still have this palette? Or do any of you remember loving this palette as much as I did? Because it was a staple for me. All right, number 4, palette. That is an amazing deal. And I'm gonna go with Angie on this one and agree with her wholeheartedly. The BH Cosmetics Say It collection. I only have 3 of the palettes, and if I'm gonna be honest with you, I've only used 2. This one I saw recently at Marshall's, so I bought it because I knew they are diamonds in the rough. If you can find them, get your little grubby paws on them because they're amazing quality. So I have Low Key Love You, which is more like red toned. I'm not a huge fan of red eyeshadows, but these reds are extremely easy to work with. The mattes are blendable, pigmented. The shimmers are so like shiny, wet looking. I love that it is matte heavy, appreciate that. This one is my favorite, and it's one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection, the Optimistic AF palette. Oh my gosh, a summer dream, if you will. Oranges, yellows, browns. This metallic white up here is so gorgeous for the inner corner. Again, I love that it's matte heavy. Quality on these are just amazing, and you can find them, and Angie just said they've restocked them on BH's website, so I will link them down below. But like I said, if you have a TJ Maxx or a Marshalls, I see these all the time. And this one is one that I bought not too long ago. It's called Do Not Disturb, so it's a blue purple. Very excited to dip into this. Do you have these palettes? Have you used them? What are your thoughts on them? They're definitely a steal. Really, really good quality. Next one is Quad You Love and Wish Was a Larger Palette. And again, Angie, I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly when you said the ColourPop quads, I think, are some of the best quality that ColourPop has for eyeshadows. The mattes are just very pigmented, very blendable. The shimmers are ultra sparkly. And so my favorite quad that I love the most is Creamsicle. It is this more like coral quad. This is so beautiful. This is a sort of duochrome where it's like a light orange with some red in there. Then you have more of a rose gold and then 2 coral colors. I would love to see this as a more expanded eyeshadow palette. And not only the color story, but just in general, this quality, I would love for them to do in a bigger palette because I don't feel like I've seen this quality in their bigger palettes. Like I already said, the mattes and the shimmers are just a step up. I love the clear acrylic packaging as well. Creamsicle is my favorite quad that I've personally used. I would love to see it expanded for sure. So number 6 is love the quality of the eyeshadow but hate the packaging. So for this one I had a hard time just because I have decluttered a lot of things that I really didn't like the packaging. Like I can just think of, and I have it in my hand here, Wet n Wild. Like I think some of their eyeshadow palettes are really good. I don't think all of them are. I don't think they're all created equal, but I have this one, and this was a limited edition palette that came out, I want to say 2021, In Love with Cocoa. They had like a cocoa themed one, like a cherry flavored one, kind of like food themed. I hate Wet n Wild's packaging. There is nothing that makes me more angry when I've just done my nails or if I have press-ons and I go to open this thing and like it screws up my nails. It makes me mad for the rest of the day. And so it makes me not want to reach for their stuff. Even their cheek products, I just don't even want to use them. So this is kind of my last standing Wet n Wild palette. See? This is my last standing Wet n Wild palette, and actually, I think it's a really good quality. The shimmers in this are really pretty, really sparkly. The mattes are really nice. I'm gonna swatch some of the shimmers, although I've had this for a little while now, a couple years, and I can definitely feel the shimmers are dried out. So maybe it's not the best quality in the world, but I think for drugstore, it's not bad. See, they're kind of shiny. They definitely feel drier than when I first bought them, though. Well, we know what's getting decluttered in the next declutter. So I guess that kind of makes this whole answer kind of moot, but Wet n Wild. The next one is show your dream palette with singles, and I'm not going to answer this one because I don't personally own any single shadows, so I can't answer it. Sorry. Let me know if you enjoy single shadows, If you do, like, what are your favorite single shadows? I know some of you have commented in the past that you do enjoy them still, but I personally don't own any. I used to own, actually, ColourPop did singles way back in the day, and I did own a handful of singles, and I literally just decluttered the little tiny palette I had of the singles. And Natasha Denona, I remember, like, I got a couple free with purchase from Sephora. They had a couple of shimmer shadows from Natasha Denona. But other than that, I've really never gotten into singles, so can't answer this one. Okay, and then the next one is palettes you like to combine together. And I'm gonna kind of cheat on this one too. Listen, I'm just stretching these questions for what I can, okay? So I rarely pair palettes together, if that makes sense. Like, most of the time, I'm doing my makeup to review palettes for the channel, so I'm trying to exclusively use that one palette. But there are occasions where I will dip into certain palettes for certain things, or if I'm traveling, I may pack a couple of palettes that I may dip into each one occasionally. But there's no like specific time where I'm like, oh, I love pairing these two palettes together. But I will say there are some palettes that I constantly go back to for certain things, and overall, Blend Money Cosmetics. I'm just gonna say Blend Money Cosmetics. Whenever I need a matte shadow that I'm lacking in another palette, I reach into my Blend Money palettes because the quality is always gonna be good. I know I can rely on it. And I own all of the Blend Bunny palettes, so I know whatever freaking shade I want, I've got it in the Blend Bunny formula. But I picked out my all matte Blend Bunny palette, the blends. This, like I said, if I need it, it's there for me. It's got every shade possible in the rainbow. Well, not every shade, but you know what I mean. But especially the white and the black. These two are the ones that I dip into in this one or any of the Blend Bunny palettes that have a black or white. Quite a few of hers do. And especially the white. Like, I love a white matte inner corner. If a palette doesn't have one, I'm reaching into a Blend Bunny palette. So I would suggest if you're looking for like a good quality, reliable matte formula and you want a variety of colors that you can really use as a companion palette, this is a great, great choice. And it's just perfect in terms of formula, in my opinion. All right, the next one is large palette you wish it was smaller. And this is a newer one to my collection, but it's too big for me. This is the Scooby-Doo and Glamlight palette. Listen, I love Glamlight's packaging. I think it's so fun, but this thing is a chunker. Like, it is ginormous. It's bigger than my head. I have a normal sized head, if that gives you any reference. But it is massive. And not only is it massive, the corners are really sharp and it's very heavy. So again, I got another weapon with me if I need it. And then on the inside, we have this. Now, there's a lot of empty space here that I feel like could have easily been condensed. And I get that they're trying to put like the pictures of the characters peeking out. And I think that's super cute. But for me, like, this is just really cumbersome to use. I think the quality of the shadows is very good, especially the shimmers. Glamlight shimmers are spectacular. They're super sparkly, super smooth, very beautiful. I love that you've got a bunch of variety of colors in here, neons, jewel tones, all of that. But this palette is ginormous, and I definitely would have preferred a smaller palette. And then the last one is eyeshadow palette you wish had a matching face palette. And I'm cheating again. So I actually think if we could get a Patrick Ta face palette based on his two eyeshadow palettes, I think that would be really cool. What do you think? Because we have a bronzy one and we have a blushy one. I am so regretting picking these because of how reflective they are. So I'm gonna try my best to show you. I mean, how cool would it be to have like a bronzer blush palette based on these two palettes? I think that'd be so, so cool. And he makes great cheek products. I own both of his blush palettes and I own a couple of his single blushes. I don't personally own any of his bronzers. If you do, let me know what your experience is, but I would love 2 or 3 versions of a face palette with different depths of bronzer, maybe a highlighting powder for under the eyes, and then having some like blushy tones, these more like mauvey, rosy colors, and then having maybe some highlighters, maybe a pinky highlighter, a gold highlighter, maybe even a rose gold highlighter. I think that would be so, so beautiful, very on brand for him, and I'd be buying it. I would be buying it for sure. That's what I think. All right, and that is it for this palette tag video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your answers down in the comments, or if you are a content creator, I would love for you to tag me if you decide to do this video. And I will again be tagging both of the creators that I saw do this down in the description box below. And I will link any of the palettes if they are available down in the description box, as well as everything that is on my face today. I'm wearing the Odin's Eye Stone and Rock palette. I'm really enjoying that one. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. I do upload videos weekly, and I would love to see you back on my channel again. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.